a home where we as children were the focus of my parents' lives, where we regularly attended church, two Christian parents who did not drink, they did not smoke, there was no gambling, there was no physical abuse or fighting in the home, but it was a fine, solid.
Beneath the charismatic facade of one man lay a sinister truth that would shock the world.
Are you a little scared when you look at him?
Yes, it scares me to be in the same room with him, but I know there's other people in there.
I'm not afraid of him. He just doesn't look like the type to kill somebody.
Every time he turns around, I kind of get that feeling, oh no, gonna get me next.
But yet you're fascinated by him.
Very, very.
Why do you do it?
I don't know.
Get ready to uncover the dark and twisted tale of Ted Bundy.
3 murders, but is believed to be the killer of perhaps 40 women.
Not just another death row inmate convicted of
Ted Bundy.
A man whose charm masked a chilling secret. Robert Bundy was an American serial killer. Bundy kidnapped, raped, and murdered many young women in the 1970s and possibly earlier. After more than a decade of denial, he confessed to 35 murders committed in 7 states between 1974 and 1978. The total number of his actual victims is unknown and is likely to be much higher. According to the investigation, 150 murders have been attributed to him. He was a serial killer and rapist, kidnapper, thief, and open dead who attacked and killed dozens of women in the 1970s. It is possible that his crimes started even before this date. The exact timeline of Ted Bundy's first murders remains uncertain, as he provided conflicting accounts to different people. While he disclosed details of later murders leading up to his execution, he remained elusive about his initial killings. Bundy mentioned attempted kidnappings in 1969 and claimed his first murder occurred in 1971 in Seattle, while also suggesting earlier incidents in 1961. He confessed to murders in 1972 and 1973 but offered little explanation, referring vaguely to incidents in Washington. 1961 at the age of 14, although he denied it. The first documented murder attributed to Bundy occurred in 1974 when he was 27 years old. Despite his young age at the time, Bundy claimed to have honed his skills, allowing him and his accomplices to evade leaving significant evidence at crime scenes.
A judge in Miami today followed the jury's recommendation and sentenced Theodore Bundy to die in the electric chair for the murder of 2 co-eds. Bundy is the 136th person under death sentence in Florida. Ed Rabel reports.
Before pronouncing the sentence, Judge Edward Cowart let Bundy make a statement.
I'm not asking for mercy, for I find it somewhat absurd to ask for mercy for something I did not do. So I will be tortured for and will suffer for and receive the pain for that act. But I will not share the burden for the guilt.
In imposing sentence, Judge Cowart cited the savagery of the crimes and what he called the indifference of the defendant.
This court, independent of, but in agreement with, the advisory sentence rendered by the jury, does hereby impose the death penalty upon the defendant Theodore Robert Bundy.
Then, in an unexpected move, perhaps an afterthought, Cowart stunned the courtroom with some parting words for Bundy.
Take care of yourself, young man.
Thank you.
I say that to you sincerely. Take care of yourself. It's a tragedy for this court to see such a total waste, I think, of humanity that I've experienced in this court. You're a bright young man. You made a good lawyer. I'd love to have you practice in front of me, but you went another way, partner.
Bundy says he'll appeal. Meanwhile, he has been ordered to the state prison to await setting of the date of his execution in the electric chair. Ed Rabel, CBS News, Miami.
After more than a decade of denial, he confessed to murdering more than 30 young women between 1974 and 1978, shortly before his execution. The actual number of murders committed by him is not fully known. Bundy is described as having good looks and a charismatic personality. These 2 characteristics helped him gain the trust of his victims. In many cases, he approached women in public places as someone who was injured or disabled and asked them to help them do something. He used this tactic to lure them to a secluded place. In some cases, he would appear as a police or fireman and use his fake legal power to escort the victim. In some cases, he returned to the place of the crime many times and spent hours decorating the corpse and flirting with it. This meeting with the rotting corpses continued until the stench of the corpse or the attack of wild animals made it impossible to get closer to it. He had beheaded at least 12 victims and kept the severed heads in his apartment for a while as a memento. In a few cases, Bundy entered the victim's house in the middle of the night and killed the women in their sleep with fatal blows. The gang, which was initially charged with an attempted assault and kidnapping in 1975, was gradually linked to a longer list of murders that took place in several states. Faced with murder charges in Colorado, Bundy planned 2 elaborate escapes and carried out more attacks. Before his final arrest in Florida in 1978, Bundy had committed his last 3 murders. For the 3 proven murders in Florida, Bundy was sentenced to death 3 times in 2 separate trials. Ted Bundy was executed by electric chair in January 1989 at Rayford, Florida. Biographer Ann Roll describes him as an antisocial sadist who enjoyed the suffering of others and the control he had over his victims until death and even beyond. Polly Nelson, one of his lawyers, describes Bundy as a heartless devil.
I grew up in a wonderful home with 2 dedicated and loving parents, one of 5 brothers and sisters. A home where we as children were the focus of my parents' lives, where we regularly attended church, 2 Christian parents who did not drink, they did not smoke, there was no gambling, there was no physical abuse or fighting in the home, but it was a fine, solid Christian